Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today we are going to be doing another video where I read recommendations from some of my favorite booktubers. I did this video last month I think, and I read 3 fantastic books recommended to me by 3 fantastic booktubers. I will link that video down below if you haven't seen it and up in the cards also. For this video, I have 3 more fantastic booktubers who have given me great recommendations. Okay, so the 3 booktubers that I got recommendations from for this vlog are Rachel from Rachel Reads and Sings. I absolutely love Rachel and she reads a lot of historicals, so I knew that I had to choose a historical, specifically a Nicola Davidson book, because I have never read Nicola Davidson and Rachel really loves her. So for this I will be reading The Devil's Submission. This one is, I believe it's like a shorter, maybe novella type length, or like just on the shorter side. I don't know if it's like fully a novella or if it's just shorter. I'm pretty sure that the dude owns like a pleasure club, and his wife, who's like sort of estranged, goes to his pleasure club to see him again after a while. So it is a marriage and trouble romance. Marriage and trouble is not my favorite trope, but Rachel loves marriage and trouble, so marriage and trouble and Nicola Davidson are perfect for Rachel. Then the second booktuber that I got a recommendation from is Bree from In Love and Words, and for her recommendation I am going to be reading a Culmination of Everything by Christina C. Jones. I've read quite a few Christina C. Jones books, but not in a really long time, and I haven't read this one. I don't really know much about this one. I believe it's a small town romance, but that's about all I know. But I'm excited to get to another Christina C. Jones, and I know that Bree absolutely loves this book, so I'm very excited. And then the third booktuber who I got a recommendation from is Tori from Novel Life. I absolutely love Tori as both a human and a YouTuber, and I have gotten a lot of recs from Tori over the last year and a half, I guess, that she's been doing YouTube. But for this one, I went specifically off of mafia romance because Tori loves mafia romance, and there is one book that Tori has mentioned a few times on her channel as being one of her like all-time favorites, and that is Luchin by Bethany Chris. She has talked a lot about how much she loves Bethany Chris, and I had never even heard of Bethany Chris until Tori mentioned her, so I have never read a book by her. And for this one I'm going to be reading Luchin. So this is a mafia romance, like I said, but that is all I know about it. I don't know anything else. And I'm fully comfortable going in blind to this book. But that is exciting. Those are the 3 booktubers who I got recommendation from, and the 3 books that I will be reading for this vlog. I will leave the booktubers linked down below in the description. Make sure you're following them. If you're not, you absolutely should. They are all absolutely amazing and I love their content and their recommendations. So now we are going to get into me reading, and I think I will start with The Devil's Submission by Nicola Davidson, but I'm not sure. So I will start reading now. Okay, so I'm currently reading The Devil's Submission by Nicola Davidson, and it's about this girl who is married. Okay, so it's like a marriage and trouble romance, which is usually not my favorite, but I know Rachel loves those, so I was not surprised that I need to put this down on something. Hang on. Can you see me? I hope so. Okay, so this is a marriage and trouble romance, which I don't usually love. It's not my favorite trope, but I know Rachel loves them, so I am willing to go with it. So the heroine is married to the hero, and they got married like kind of quickly. They had this like, they got ruined, I think, but they were like in love. And now their marriage kind of fell apart. The hero describes it as the heroine kind of like changing once they got married and becoming this like docile, like losing her like spirit basically, and so he basically sent her away. And now it's been a while, and the heroine's parents are in financial trouble, and the hero is wealthy. And so heroine's parents send the heroine to go see her husband for like a wedding of their friends, to try and get him to give them the money that they need to get out of debt. And so the heroine agrees, because the heroine's mom is like a bitch, but she's very like traditionally historical mother type thing, where the mothers are very like, this is what a wife should be and this is what you should act like, and like the mother is basically like shaming the heroine for not having a kid at this point, which is like hella rude. And so the heroine agrees, and she goes and she sees the hero for the first time, and the hero has this like mistress. I think it's a mistress, or I don't know if she's like actually his mistress or if she's just a friend, but the heroine thinks that she's a mistress. I'm not really sure. It's gonna be interesting, but the hero's name is Devil, which I love, by the way. And the heroine's name is Eliza, and the hero owns a pleasure club, which is super fun. And that's an interesting addition to the story. They already had to share a bed, so that was like really great. And the heroine is having like a hard time keeping her temper in check, and she basically is trying to do what her mother says, which is that she's supposed to be this don't raise your voice, be like the nice wife, but that really goes against who she is as a person, and she wants to like yell and scream at him. And I think that the hero wants her to yell and scream at him. So I'm thinking that it's gonna go that way, and that like she like is just finally gonna lose her temper, and the hero's gonna be like, that's what I wanted. Like when we got married, it seems like she started following what her mom said like a wife should be. That wasn't the lady that he fell in love with. So it's really interesting. I am doing video prep for a bunch of videos that I need to film, so this is perfect. I'm listening to the audiobook. It's a really short audiobook. I think it's only like 2.5 hours, so the book must be very short. But I'm enjoying myself, and it's going really well so far. Okay, how do we feel about this angle? Because it's pretty bad, and the lighting is like really bad. But I finished the Devil's Submission, so I thought that I would update you. I really enjoyed it. I didn't update in between because this is short. It's only 114 pages, and it just went really quickly while I was doing video prep for other videos, and I enjoyed it. The hero is like a submissive. He wants pain, and he wants his woman to be the dominant one and to yell at him and like reprimand him. And so, like I said, it's a marriage in trouble, and so it made sense why their marriage started failing after the heroine started becoming very like demure and more like ladylike, like her mother wanted her to be. And so I ended up enjoying it. I will say that I wish that it was longer. I think that this would have been a really good drawn out type book. They could have put a lot of tension between the two characters, because it is a marriage in trouble that like I felt like they got back together super quickly, which makes sense because it's a novella, but I wanted like a little bit more. I just wanted more, and because it was so short, it was slightly rushed. And so I think that they were trying to pack a lot of plot into a story that was like so short, while also trying to have it be really spicy. So I think that while I enjoyed it, I wish that it was longer and that there was more to it, because the plot itself was very interesting, and I think the author could have done a lot with it. I will say that this is book 2 in a series, and that I hope the book 3 is about the Scottish dude. All of his friends, the hero in this is named Devil, and his friends are named like Sin and Vice, and I thought that was hilarious, and I want the Scottish guy to have a story so that I can listen to his fucking amazing Scottish accent, because, yep. The third one is called The Seduction of Viscount Vice, and it is the Scottish guy, and I'm sure as fuck gonna read that story, because the Scottish accent of the dude who does the voice for this audiobook did it perfectly, and it was just, it made me want it. So I definitely think that if I have like an extra time and I'm looking for a short historical, that I will go back and read book 1 also. So while it wasn't like a 5-star like favorite thing, and that I did want a little bit more from it, I liked it for what it was. and I'm going to give it 4 stars. And it made me want to read more from the author, which I think counts as a successful book, is that the author now has me as a reader. I want to go and read other books by her. So I feel accomplished and successful in my reading of this. So that is a win for this. That is it for the double submission. So I don't know which one I'll start next. But yeah, I will come back when I have started one of the other books. Okay, I'm really sorry for this horrible lighting and location and everything, but I wanted to let you know that I started Luchin, and I am about 95 pages into it, which is about 30%, and I'm really enjoying myself. It's a mafia, and the guy, the hero, Luchin, is adopted into his family, and his father, his adopted father, is the Don of the Cosa Nostra in New York City. And he has 2 younger brothers that are biological to the Don, so like to his adopted family. And he is in church one day and he bursts into the confessional because his mother is making him do confessional. And so he bursts open the confessional like curtain because he doesn't think anyone is in there, and he's like irritated that he has to do it. And there's a girl in there and she's gorgeous, and he immediately is like dumbstruck by her, and he runs away basically. He has to leave and get away from her because he's just like, he starts stuttering, and it's really cute actually. He's this like big mafioso, and then he sees this pretty girl and he's like and it's so cute. So then he and his brothers and his dad are they're having trouble with this motorcycle gang, and so they go to a club, a strip club that's owned by the motorcycle gang, and he sees this girl again. She is the waitress at this club, and he, again, is just dumbstruck by how beautiful she is and how attracted to her he is and how, like, wonderful she seems to be. I'm sorry, this light is just, like, directly in my face and it's driving me crazy. And it's like an instant, he's having a hard time not going towards her, touching her, anything. And he thinks he's being so, like, inconspicuous about it, but his father immediately notices, and his brothers notice, and the motorcycle gang also sort of notice. So he ends up not meaning to, but the girl ends up being in danger because of it, and his father does all this like research on her and is like, if you are gonna bring somebody into our family, we need to know who they are. And I really, really like it, and I'm having a really great time. It is definitely like an insta-love feeling, but it's an insta-love of like one of those that I'm sort of accepting of it, because it's like this big alpha male that's just like struck down to his knees by how much he is drawn to this one girl. And I feel like it's something that I see in mafia or in stories where there's like a really big alpha guy and he's known to be like super powerful and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden he meets this girl and he's like, he can't do his job. He changes his like whole feelings on what is considered important, and they even talk about it in the book with his father and his mother, because they talk about how like his father is the Don of the Cosa Nostra, and how he is this big, terrifying man that so many people are afraid of, but his wife is in charge of him. So I'm sort of more accepting of it, but I'm really enjoying myself. I'm having a great time, and I'm really liking it. So okay, so I am now almost 70% into Luchin, and I'm still loving it. I'm very much enjoying this story. I can totally feel the connection between Luchin and Jordan, and I think that because of that connection and deep emotions that I feel between the two of them, the fact that it was an insta-love doesn't bother me. And I also love the fact that they really like discussed it they like discussed the fact that like it's not normal how quickly they got together, and how quickly they're feeling these things, and how quickly they became so deep in their relationship. And his brothers commented on it, and his father commented on it, and even he commented on it, and they had a conversation, Lucien and Jordan together had a conversation about it of like, this is not normal, but this is how I feel. I also really, really love their communication with each other. One thing that I have noticed before in like insta love ones like this, and also in mafia romances, when the heroine is not involved in the mafia business, is that the hero will like keep things from her, being that like she is in danger or she doesn't know a lot about it, and so he's like, oh, in order to keep you safe, I like don't talk about the mafia business. This is not like that at all. He is like, this is what I do. I need you to know who I am as a person. This is the business that I have, and he's like fully and completely open with her about every single aspect of his life and his personality, which I love. Their communication is fantastic. They had like a fight, and he came back and apologized and was like, I'm sorry, wasn't listening to you. I understand now. I totally get what you were trying to say, and I'm sorry that I didn't make the time to stand there and listen to you. And she was like, no, I'm also sorry that I did this, this, and this. And they like had a fight, there was an issue, and they like immediately resolved it afterwards and had like a full conversation about why they were mad at each other and what they needed to do better in order to make next time not have a fight like that. And it was just so perfectly done. The communication is just so perfectly on point that I am having a great time. So because of the very amazing communication, the deep connection that I can feel and emotions, and the fact that they discussed that this is not normal, I am completely over the fact that this is insta love. I do not care, and I'm very much enjoying this book. So I think that I will finish tomorrow because it's currently like 2 o'clock in the morning and I need to go to bed. But I will finish and then give you full final thoughts, but I'm having a great time. Okay, so update time. I finished Lucien by Bethany Chris, and I loved it. I think I'm gonna give it 5 stars. It was one of the healthiest mafia romances that I've ever read. Like, the relationship between the two of them was so incredibly well done. I really felt the connection between the two of them, and their relationship was not one-sided. It was not unequal, even though one was in the mafia and one wasn't in the mafia, or like wasn't like known about the mafia. So I thought that Lucien did a great job of being like an equal for Jordan, and that Jordan was fully a badass, was not willing to just sit back and be like a mafia person's wife. She was gonna stand up. She was like the only person who was willing to like clap back at Lucien's father, which I loved. She had no fear with that kind of thing, and she just completely took down other people and like would not let anyone talk shit about Lucien or about her, and I loved that. It was so well done. I absolutely loved it, and I'm gonna give it 5 stars. It reminded me of like the relationship between the two of them and the equality between the two of them, and the like bouncing ideas and working with each other of the two of them reminded me of Ivan and Sloane from Ivan by Sophie Lark. Like that mafia relationship where they get to be so equal and get to a point where they're like, oh, we should try this. Oh, you think that would work? I think this might work. And he's like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Like that collaboration, that's the word I was looking for, collaboration of what we can do, and one not just sitting back on the sidelines, reminded me so much of Ivan from and Sloane. I loved it. I thought it was so incredibly well done. I will definitely be reading the next one. I'm definitely gonna have to look more into Bethany Chris because I did really love the writing style and the character development in this book. So a full and complete win for me. Thank you, Tori, for the recommendation. I am sorry it took me so long to read it, but I'm so glad I finally did. It was fantastic. Now, for the next book that I'm going to read, I mentioned that I was going to read Culmination of Everything by Christina C. Jones for Bree's book. I'm not going to do that anymore. I still very much want to read that book, but it's not really what I'm in the mood for right now, and my reading is so borderline reading slump that I don't want to do anything that I'm not in the mood for that'll like push me over the edge. And so instead, I was watching a live show last night on Bree's channel with Bree and Steph, and Bree and Steph love Alexis Hall, and I have only ever read boyfriend material by Alexis Hall, so I asked on that live show what their favorite was, and they both came back and said that For Real by Alexis Hall is probably very high up there on their favorites. So for Bree's book, I will be reading For Real by Alexis Hall, because I went and looked to see if it had an audiobook, and surprise, I own the audiobook already. I must have bought it in like an Audible sale or something and just completely forgot about it, because I own it and I don't remember buying it. But I'm going to read that. I don't know anything about it. I don't have any idea what it's about, but I do think that it's MM. I think Alexis Hall only writes MM, but I could be wrong about that, because again, I only have read boyfriend material. But I am excited to try it out, and Bree and Steph from Novelty Corner both love it. So this will be fun. So that is what I'm gonna do. I have the audiobook and I will start it at some point today when I get a chance. So that's what we are going to be doing now. All right, so I am about 22% into For Real by Alexis Hall, and I'm enjoying myself. I literally had no idea what this book was going into it. I had no clue. I completely forgot that I owned it. I didn't know what the cover looked like. I knew absolutely nothing about this. And so going into it blind, it took me a minute to understand a little bit what was going on. But I am enjoying myself so far. It seems as though this is about a guy named Laurie, who is like an older guy. I think he's like mid-30s, late 30s, early 40s maybe. So I believe that he's like older, and he doesn't look like a submissive, but he is a submissive. It is a BDSM book. Like literally the first scene of the book was him trying to go to a BDSM club and them being like, oh, you don't look like you belong here. And him being like, I just want somebody to help me out. And them being like, can't believe that dude is a sub. And he's like, me either. Like he's doesn't seem happy about the fact that he is a submissive. And at that club, at this like BDSM club, he meets this guy who's super young. He's like 19. It looks really young. He's skinny and comes across as like, if you looked at him, he would look like a sub. And he's not. He's a dom. And so this 40-year-old big looking sub pairs up with this 19 skinny dom. And so they don't look like what they are, I guess. And so I can tell that this book is going to be extremely character driven and not plot driven. I don't really see a plot so far, like at all, outside of the like developing themselves and the characters. But it seems like Laurie is struggling with his identity maybe, and with control, and with himself just in general. He talks about how he is a submissive and will obey the orders, but he won't give up control kind of thing, and how other doms who are participating in scenes with him have a hard time with it, because he's still like in control and everything, and he's not trusting them enough or willing to give up any sort of control, and he's almost basically like topping from the bottom kind of situation. He is struggling. And then what is the other guy's name? Toby, I think his name is Toby, is the like 19-year-old young one, and he knows that he's a dom, and he's like, I am 100% confident that I am a dom, but I have no experience, and he has no idea really how to start. He needs somebody's help to teach him what he needs to do in order to be a dom, because basically all he knows right now is like from the internet. But he has this like thing where he's like so sure of his identity but doesn't know how to go about it, and then Lori is so unsure and struggling, and so I think that they like match really well and would help each other really well, but Lori needs to like get his head out of all the fog that it's currently in. So it's interesting so far, and I am enjoying myself. I did have to open the ebook because I mean, I was listening to the audiobook and I was just like, kept having to like go back because I wasn't like catching everything. I don't know if it's just because they're British accents or because I'm tired, and so I wasn't like, if it was like a me thing. But I did have to download the ebook. I found it on Hoopla, so I didn't have to pay for it. But I downloaded the ebook just so I could follow along with the ebook, because I was like missing things and kept having to go back and being like, what's going on, while listening to the audiobook. And the narration sounds great though. Like the accents are done really well. Alexis Hall is British. What I know of his other books is that they take place in England, and so the narrators are British. I am enjoying myself, and I am gonna keep going. It is long. The ebook is like 450 pages and the audiobook is almost 13 hours. So I'm 20% into it, and it says that I'm only 2.5 hours into the audiobook, so I have about 5 hours left listening on 2 times speed, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, I had to switch to sit over here, but I'm so sorry if you can hear my fan. It's like 85 degrees in my house and in my bedroom, and we don't have AC, so I'm sorry about that. I will try and block it out as much as I can, and I'll add captions to this if you guys can't hear me. But I am reading this book, and I am on page like 130 or something, and I just laughed so loudly because I just love their connection and what they have right now. Like in the beginning I was a little confused, and I'm like it progressed a little strangely in the beginning, and I don't know if I just missed something, but their relationship was like a little strange. And I like don't know how much time passed when they like first met and like when they met again. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is this scene right here that just made me laugh so hard and that I love so much, because Lori is, like I said before, Lori is the more experienced one, and he is also the submissive. So it's such an interesting dynamic, because Lori as the submissive is teaching Toby as the dominant about the dynamic, about sex, because like while Toby has had sex, he hasn't really had sex in a way that was pleasing to him as like a dominant and what he needs to get out of sex. Lori is teaching him basically, and he's showing Toby all of these like experiences that they can have together that are like super pleasurable, that Toby's like slightly nervous about, and Lori's like, just go with it, you'll like it, I promise. And Toby's like insecure or embarrassed and like not sure because he's never done this before, and so he's like, I want to be a dominant and I want to learn how to do it and I want to do it well, but it's his first time doing it, so he's still nervous. And their dynamic is just done so well, and I really, really love this like teaching mentality, while also Lori being like the one that wants to please
Toby, as Toby is he's the one that is like telling Lori what to do, but at the same time Lori is the one that's like offering him different ideas, like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, and Toby is like, yes, that's the one I want you to do. But there's this scene that we just had where Lori wants to do, we're just gonna go for it, Lori wants to rim Toby. And Toby is like not sure about it. He's like, what if I'm hairy? What if you don't like it? What if I do something wrong, kind of thing? And Lori's like, you'll like it. I'm gonna do it. And he's like pleading, and Toby's like getting sassy, and he's like, well, this better feel good. And Lori's like, it will. And it was so funny because Toby was so sassy about like, he doesn't really think that this is going to be as like awesome as Lori makes it out to be. And then at the end of the scene, he turns to Lori and he goes, are those books on your shelf valuable? And Lori's like, well, they're sentimental, but like, why? And he's like, well, I accidentally projectile ejaculated all over them, so maybe we should get a tissue and clean them off. It was so good. It was so funny. And I just love it because I love the way that when you see Lori around anyone other than Toby, Lori is this like such a buttoned up, like so in control of himself, and he's so he just seems really stressed, like really like one of those people that's like wound really tightly, so buttoned up, doesn't let himself relax, doesn't let himself do what he wants. But when he's around this 19-year-old boy, he is so carefree and having such a like relaxed time, letting him be himself and just being happy, calming down and being like, I am just gonna enjoy the experience, enjoy the moment and all this stuff, and I just think it's really cute. So
hey friends, I am back to tell you that I finished for real, and I have no fucking clue how I feel about this book. I finished it this morning, and like I said, I have no idea how to describe this book. I have no idea how to explain how I feel about this book because I very much enjoyed the character development in this book. I loved the way that the characters came together, how they learned to trust each other and share each other and like become better versions of themselves while they're together. And I love to see Toby come into his like dominant role and be much more confident about it and much more secure in what he needed and understanding in that. I loved how the two of them made something that worked for them. It wasn't like a traditional super submissive or super dominant relationship. It was what worked for them, and I loved it, and I thought it was done so well, their relationship. It's entirely character driven, and the entire, I guess, plot is just their relationship, which is not a bad thing. It just was different. It was very different than other books that I've read. It was very emotional also, like it got to a point where it was like so incredibly emotional, and I loved seeing how the characters reacted to how deeply emotional and vulnerable their relationship got, because it wasn't something that they like really went starting out being that way, especially Lori. Lori was not looking for a relationship. He was not looking for what he ended up getting with Toby, but he had to give in to that vulnerability and that feeling and all the feelings that he was having about their relationship and everything. So I don't know how to rate this. I have no idea how to rate this. But it is one of those books that's gonna make me think. It made me think very deeply about relationships, and it made me think very deeply about just life in general, and Toby is struggling a lot with what he wants to do, and like confidence, and just not even just confidence, but also like not wanting to follow the traditional path of like college and then job and then career and stuff like that. And it was interesting to see how Toby, his mom had him when she was 15, and her parents were incredibly strict, and so when she had her kid, she didn't want to be that way, and it ended up being like incredibly loose with her parenting. And I think that Toby wanted her to be more strict, and it was this very interesting dynamic of unique parenting and like needing to be there needed to be a middle ground between like super loose parenting and overly strict parenting, because Toby was so lost because like he didn't feel as though his mom was his parent basically, and how his grandfather was like the only one that really seemed to care about him as a person. Like, he knows that his mom loves him, but his grandfather was like the one that cared like so deeply about him. And so Toby's relationship with his grandfather like played a huge role in how he lived his life. And it was just, I really don't know how to describe this. Like, for a wrap up, I would have no idea how you would say what this book is like even about. But I enjoyed it. I mean, like, I had a great time, and it really is gonna make me think, but rating wise, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a 5-star book to me, but maybe it needs to be because of how much it made me like think through things. I might have to just give it 5 stars. But I remember when I was in the middle of it and I was looking at Goodreads reviews, and I was pondering really what the book was, because even in the middle, like, I still had no clue really what I was feeling about the book and what I was. It's very different than other things that I have read, and not in a bad way at all, just in a different way. And I was seeing some of the reviews, and like, people were talking about it exactly the way that I was thinking about it, which was that it is confusing and yet deep and sweet and painful and like has this like hopeful quality to it also. It really just makes you think entirely like about life. And there was one review that I remember glancing at that said something about along the lines of how it reminded them at some points like they were reading poetry. And I totally get that. How you have to really like look beneath what is just on the surface, and you can't just, it was almost like you have to look into the deeper meaning of the relationship, because there are people who can see this book and think just from the outside that, oh, it's like a BDSM, like it's nothing special, like just from the cover or from the even the synopsis, but it is so much more than that. And the way that they discover their BDSM relationship really brings to life so much about relationships and about life in general. And so it was just it was incredibly done, and it really just made you think. And it has nothing to do with the book Manacled, but it reminds me of a similar way that I felt after I finished Manacled, which was like, it left me really changed and thinking about and like in Manacled, it was what's the right thing to do. In Manacled, it really makes you think about like, what is the right choices, and it changes your perspective on like life. And this had that same similar feeling as I'm finishing it and being like, having to rethink like basically my whole life. So I don't think that I could give it anything less than 5 stars, but it's not a book that I would ever reread, I don't think, but it's one that was like impactful, I guess, for my life, which is similar to Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I read Long Shot and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. And I was irrevocably changed by reading Long Shot and having it have such an emotional impact on like my life and the way that I viewed other relationships. but I will never reread it because it gave me such incredible emotional damage. And I feel like with this book, it was a similar thing. Not because of the emotional damage, just but because of the, I don't think if I ever reread it, I would get the same life altering quality and like life pondering quality out of it. So that is, I hope that some of that made sense, and some of that, like, I hate the shadows on these glasses, so even though I can't really see you, I'm gonna leave them off. So I hope that some of that made sense and that you can decipher my ramblings there, because I don't even know how to put my own thoughts into words at this moment. This is the best that I've got. So that is going to be it for this video. I would call this another successful video. I had 2 5-star reads and a 4-star read, and I had a great time reading these books. Great reading experiences. I already read another Nicola Davidson book, so thanks Rachel for that author recommendation. I am definitely going to read the rest of Bethany Chris's books in the Lucian Marcello series, so thank you Tori for that recommendation. And Bree, my life is probably forever changed by reading this book, so thank you for the Alexis Hall recommendation. And I will definitely read more after this, because I've only read this one and Boyfriend Material, and Boyfriend Material I enjoyed, but it wasn't like an absolute favorite. I didn't give it 5 stars. But I will definitely read more Alexis Hall now. So I'm sorry, Bree, that I did not read A Culmination of Everything, but I promise I will read it at some point soon. But I will not say that I'm sorry for reading for real, because I obviously have a lot of feelings about it. But that is going to be it for this video. So I will be doing a part 3 at some point. I have so many other booktubers that have that I follow and love, that have given me amazing recommendations over the years. So please, if there are any specific booktubers that you would like me to read a book on their taste, leave them in the comments below. But that is going to be it for this video. So thank you so much for watching. Please like if you liked it, and subscribe and stick around so you can see more content from me. But other than that, I hope you have a great day.